Hey, this is Stacy Spikes from Moviepass, and you're listening to Verbal Shenanigans.
But our shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
Yeah, I mean, his shenanigans are cruel and tragic.
Which makes them not shenanigans at all, really. Evil shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
Oh, hello, everybody. Welcome on to the show. Back to the show, if you will. Pardon me if I sound like I am underwater or that I've been sitting in a sarcophagus for the last couple years, but I am, I don't know. I think I have AIDS. I think this is probably the end of me coming up in the next few weeks or so. So, Mike, you better start warming up to take over this throne that I currently inherit.
And I apologize to the audience if my English doesn't work too well. It's a running condition. It's been going on since episode 26. I think that was the first one. So I apologize, and eventually I'll go to doctors and get this checked out as well.
Yeah, I've basically gone from fluid in my ears before I went to Canada, came back, started coughing for basically a month now. Then it went into my throat. The other day, my eyes crusted over, so I had like old school like pink eye. I've been a mess basically for a month straight. So
on the bright side, it sounds like your fluids are having an amazing adventure. I mean, they're starting up in your ears, and they took a vacation south into your throat, then they went up north to your eyes and all. I would love. Like, I'm wondering, they're just going around your body going, this is fun.
Yeah, that's the next Pixar movie. You know,
Yeah,
they do like it's Inside Out. Inside Out's about feelings. Fluids is about all your bodily fluids and what they do inside of you and outside of you. And, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they do the adult one, they go really low on you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Out the poop chute, out the front. Who knows? There's great characters in that movie, like Puss, and
he would be the bully of the movie, I would say, like, or maybe Scum. Puss and Scum, they could be teammates. All right. Another movie in the bank. All right, put this down next to Moon Jail.
There's breast milk. There's snot. There's sweat,
loogie,
a lot of saliva. There's a lot of good.
Like tears could have all different emotions. It's like, oh, this tear is having the greatest day of his life, and it's just bawling. It's like, oh, that's sad tears. You look just like happy tears.
How could we forget blood? Blood is a big fluid.
Yeah, our Disney movie is going to be full of blood, just all over it.
Over the top.
The kids will love it.
But welcome back to the show. We'll muscle through this. I mean, I'm in a good mood here. I'm festive. I got like my advent calendar behind me, so I'm ready. I'm getting in the holiday spirit here.
Is that what you got back there? Yeah,
just like a little advent. Well, we'll talk about that advent calendar a little bit later. But Michael, you got you posted some interesting things online this week.
Speaking of the movie Fluids, so Thanksgiving, I'm taking the dogs out. We had a lovely Thanksgiving. We went over to some of Izzy's musical friend's house. How to entice us to come was they were talking about how the one person's mother and father didn't know they were both invited. So hell might break loose on this Thanksgiving. Sadly, one of them didn't show up, so it was just a normal Thanksgiving. But as a Burlew tradition, normal holiday things don't get to happen for me. I'm taking the dogs out to go to the bathroom, and as I'm bringing Chelsea or Leia back into the household, she's pulling me, and there's a gigantic wad of what appears to be potato stew on my front lawn.
Okay, so you posted a picture of this said potato stew. To me, it looked like a bunch of like saliva and spit up with chunks of potatoes in it. Like I've seen my dog throw up similar items before.
Yeah, and I had to kind of debate you on this. Unfortunately, I could not get to my security camera to find out the official answer. But there's a few problems I have with the saving. Number one,
I really wish you were going to tell me you did spend like a full night just watching a security camera to solve the stew mystery.
As you know, we had John Walsh on the show. I got his number. I called him up. I said, I need some investigative help. I had the Bomb Squad Black come on.
The Bomb Squad Black.
Yeah.
Is that the one guy, the token black guy in the Bomb Squad?
No. That was our guest from a few weeks ago, whose name is...
His name was Barry. He wasn't the Bomb Squad Black.
But that was a cool name if you used it. But I called him in. I called everybody who's been on the show. I mean, here's my kind of issues with the vomit thing. Number one...
The vomit theory.
The total load itself was way more than a normal animal vomit situation we had here. Okay. I'm talking close to probably a few quarts of potato stew, which is way out of the ordinary. And of all the dogs in the area that might be a stray, none of them are at the size where they could have just done this and been able to walk away from the situation, if you will.
Okay.
Like if they're the only dogs I know that are kind of like walking around, they're tiny. They don't have the oomph to do this, or cats.
Oomph?
Yeah, that's a very technical doggy term.
First off, of all the dogs you know that are walking around, is the first thing you say.
Yeah.
So you just know all the dogs in the neighborhood, I assume.
There are a few that they're not stray, but the whole keeping your dog on your land thing is not really adhered to in this area.
So you must be in heaven. Just random dogs show up
once in a while. Yeah, it's kind of cool to see and everything. But
now
that's number one.
Let me get to the first part of your theory. Okay.
Yeah.
So say it was this potato stew, if you will. What makes it seem like a stew? Was it just the chunks of potatoes in it, or did it have other stew-like qualities?
It was very thick. What was on the lawn? Everything was in full pieces, not like chewed up parts about it. So like the dog would have to actually open its mouth, then pour in the stew, and then the dog would have had to run out directly to my lawn and spew it out in order for this vomit theory of yours to be true.
Okay. Second theory, maybe if you're saying it was such a large amount for a dog, have you thought that it may be from a different type of animal that may have gotten into the garbage of somebody, or sucked down like a trash bag that was in there, and there happened to be a lot of leftover potato stew or whatnot in the trash bag?
Now, from the stray animals I've seen that we've had, like
from
I said,
from the stray animals I know around here.
Yeah, and I keep a detailed list, young man. You thought you had a defense. You ain't got nothing on me. You hear me? From what I have seen, like the dogs are tiny. There's some stray cats that come around once in a while. I've seen a possum. I've seen one time a fox, tiny little fox. And nothing like of any size and all. I've heard rumors of deer in the area, but I don't think a deer would have had access to that amount of potato stew to do that on my lawn.
Listen, so Paulie the possum and and Wally the deer would never have puked that much. I have kept track of all my imaginary friends and my real friends.
I talk to them. They all have voices, and when I talk to them in my head, none of them have eaten that amount of potato stew to blurt out onto my lawn.
Is it true they call you the Southern Pocahontas down in your neck of the woods?
I mean, that's one of the nicer things they call me. They call me a bunch of other stuff also. But yeah, that they say I just had Burloo Doolittle was another one, instead of doctor.
Burloo Little? No.
You listening, Disney? But
All right, I'll accept your first theory. Let's hear the second part.
Yeah, the second part, as I picked it up and I needed multiple grocery plastic bags to pick up what was on the lawn, there was nothing of phlegmy in the fluids. There was nothing that suggested it came out of some stomach of some sorts.
Okay.
So it wasn't like acidy, it wasn't phlegmy. It was literally just a big pile of potato stew sitting on my lawn. And again,
I think you should have tasted it.
That was brought up before. It was cold, so I wasn't gonna bring the potato stew that's been on my lawn for half the day and put it in my clean microwave. That'd been disgusting.
Why didn't you take it and serve it to your guests that were coming in, or take
I
it
made delicious bacon mac and cheese. I don't want to be bringing my delicious bacon mac and cheese to there, and everybody saying, "Oh my God, this potato stew is delicious. This is the most amazing potato stew ever," and make me feel bad and all. Like my mac and cheese is not touched as everybody's tasting the grass potato stew.
Yeah. What did you add to this? What is this, lawn? I taste lawn.
It's very earthy.
Yeah.
It's very nice and
Very
all.
nice.
This tastes organic and all. I can still taste the dirt in these potatoes.
Okay. All right. And what's theory number 3?
Theory number 3 on why it's just weird stuff happens to me. I don't know. It just like as I check things out, as much as I want to say it's not vomit, it was like middle lawn, which was quite odd.
Okay.
Like if somebody was walking down the street with potato stew and they spilled it, it would have been on the crevice of my lawn. It was on the middle end. But like I said, my biggest things are the amount, the lack of any of the vegetables being chewed, and the fact that there was no phlegminess to the pickup of said grouping.
No phlegminess. The crevice of your lawn. There's some winning terms in here that you are throwing out there today.
Like every week.
The potato stew, aka vomit, whatever you want to call it.
I'm leaning on potato stew, but continue.
I'm still on Team Vomit. # Team Vomit. This also has to be the least marketable thing ever. We're talking about Team Potato Stew or Team Vomit. This is not like when Twilight came out. And
it's 1 for 1, brother. One for one.
What was it? Team Edward versus Team Jacob. They were like hot vampires, and we're talking about who did something disgusting on your lawn.
There's no beautiful man behind these hashtags right here.
There's no chicks like tweeting all day like, yo, I'm totally Team Puke, or Team Stew. So say I agree with you on the fact that it's stew. Okay. I don't, but let's say I do. What are the theories on how said stew arrives on your lawn?
Well,
1, who, 2, why on your lawn, and 3, where does the stew even come from?
Well, I would imagine somebody had like a Friendsgiving, like a pre-Thanksgiving thing. Like everybody's got plans. Hey, I'm going to be at my mother's, I'm going to be at my cousin's or whatever. So they want to get together before the holiday to do it. And I would assume it's like a major potluck. Right. And probably like somebody is like super known for their potato stew, where it's just like,
did you just say
they don't even?
Did you say super known? Super known? Is that what you just said?
Super known.
Oh, they said super known.
Oh, I get what you're saying right
for
there.
But, stew. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep. # potato stew. Gotcha. Yep. But it's one of those things where like they don't even, hey, Cheryl, what are you gonna bring? They just go, Cheryl, you're coming, and you're just bringing a big old bucket of your famous potato stew.
Well, okay. So Cheryl from Georgia is known for her big buckets of potato stew. They said you're not. She must be well known because They said, you're not bringing anything else. You're bringing your famous bucket of potato stew.
You can't just have like a small crock pot of Cheryl's potato stew, Scott. That would be gone in like 3 seconds, and then Friendsgiving would be useless. It'd be done at like 6:40. They're having an all night Friendsgiving, and that means all night potato stew.
Is this what it's like down in Georgia? Like, oh, Mike's known for his bacon mac and cheese. Cheryl, she got them buckets of stew.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Everybody's got their thing down here.
Yeah, I mean, my mac and cheese is growing, but it's no Cheryl bucket of potato stew. So,
did you ever get the inspiration to toss your mac and cheese on the crevice of somebody's lawn, as you would say?
I mean, I really like it. I mean, I put a lot of cheeses into it, so I don't feel the need to just like throw it on somebody's lawn. But I feel like there's so much, like they're just eating it through the night and they're just drinking and having a good time. And I'm going to assume we're going to say Teddy drank too much. They kept on saying, Teddy, every Friendsgiving, you do this, you get drunk, you wander away, we have to find you. Right. Don't be doing this. And Teddy's like, oh no, don't worry. I'm only going to drink 2 beers. I'm going to be fine. Don't worry about it. But, people bring wine. Somebody's like, oh, snap, the blue label's in your cabinet. One thing leads to another. It's like 11:30 at night, and everybody's like, oh, wait. Oh, no. Where's Teddy? Where the heck is Teddy? Mm-hmm. And it's just like the whole Friendsgiving's now trying to find Teddy throughout the neighborhood.
Now, are they more concerned about Teddy or that the stew has been stolen from them?
Well, Teddy loves said potato stew, so he had like a big old container of it, and they'll just eat it as he's wandering through the neighborhood.
Right.
But he does. It's one of those like they're just frantically looking through them, and all like they're trying to say who's got a flashlight, and all it's pretty dark out there. I'm not sure if I'm going to find Teddy.
Right.
And then we'll say about 20 minutes later, they're just roaming through the neighborhood. Teddy. People thinking they're looking for like one of the stray dogs or cats, but no, it's their friend Teddy. And they're like, there he is. And he's still so belligerent. He's just like walking around, and he's like walking from out of the street onto my yard. And they just like run up, Teddy, and it scared him, and he jostled his container of potato stew, and it fell onto my front lawn. And I said, oh, I was gonna finish that. Teddy, there's plenty of potato stew back at Friendsgiving. Come on, we gotta go back to the house right now. Cheryl is there. She'll make more potato stew if need be. Come on, Teddy. And lo and behold, when I woke up, there was a big lump of Cheryl's potato stew in my front lawn.
Oh, freaking Cheryl. Now, did you? I mean, it sounds feasible to me. It sounds like
I just laid it out for you. I don't know how you could have more questions.
I mean, did you clean up the stew at all? Did you attempt to? So the dogs wouldn't like get into it.
Yeah,
because you're big. We know that your dog with the big tongue that is not treated the same as the other 2 dogs would really like the chance to actually eat food, as opposed to the others who have like nice licky pads, and he doesn't get one.
He got a licky pad. He just, if I share something with the dogs, he has to go later because he just takes up too much space with his tongue.
I would like to say that last Christmas I purchased him a nice licky pad. So
yeah, he has his own to avoid the sharing. But in any case, yes, I did pick it up. I had to treat it kind of like dog poo, so I got like 4 plastic grocery bags, and it literally took all 4 to pick them up. Hence how I told you that was too much for it to be just one animal puking on my lawn.
So now in New Jersey, that would be hard because we don't have these plastic bags anymore.
Yeah, you're messed up. You just got potato stew on your lawn all month.
I would just be using old socks and t-shirts.
Like maybe run it over with the lawnmower, see if that does anything.
Yeah, shoot the stew even into harder places.
Stew, it's not vomit that you're running over with your lawnmower, Scott. Get it through your head.
Yeah, yeah. So it's okay to just shoot stew all over my lawn. It's good for the crop.
I don't know how the whole bag situation works. I never ran over potato stew with a lawnmower before. Maybe I'll go right in the bag and it'll be nice and clean and you'll have a nice looking lawn. I don't know.
It's mind-boggling you've made it this far without severely harming yourself or injuring yourself or like causing harm to somebody else.
Try to get by. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'm that dangerous. God, I mean, people love me.
I mean, there's like a person or two that love you, so that's it's better than
Big
some.
Wild Hank loves me. I took him to his first football game this weekend.
I
And
saw
on a
that.
side note, they had a scratch it at the football game, so they give you like it looks like a lottery ticket. And you scratch it off, and you have a number, and they have a big old drawing. They had 3 drawings. 20 people get $1,000. 10 people get $5,000. One person gets $10,000. First drawing, it's like first number 7. Ha. They even get the first number. Second drawing comes up 9. Ha. They get the first number. 10 grand drawing 2. I'm still in the running. 9. Oh, cute. 2 numbers. 1. Oh, 3 numbers. 4. Okay, I'm 1 number away from 10 grand. So's my dad. I got 5. He's got 9. Comes up as 4.
I thought you were going to tell me that you took your dad to his first game. He loved it. He wins $10,000 and just like
He
leaves
gives
you
me like $40 for the tickets.
Yeah.
There you go, son.
buys
Oh
you
wait, you had a popcorn too. Here's an extra $2.
he buys you a beer and he's like, oh wow, with this ticket I get into the VIP lounge, and he goes off and you're sitting by yourself. Big
Yeah,
wild,
I'm all lonely. It's not even my football teams out there. I
Big
really
wild-
miss my dad.
Big Wild Hank becomes everyone. He's chumming it up with the ownership and past.
Oh yeah,
players.
all the Atlanta rappers.
Yeah.
He's right by them, and no, is that my father with T-Pain? What the hell? Big Wild Hank and T-Pain. That's a
Real quick.
combo.
Real quick before we get to our guests, your dad made it this long with never going to a football game.
He's never went to a regular season game.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about it. At first, he thought he didn't go to one, and I reminded him we went to a preseason game between the Eagles and Bills where we saw Eagles fans chucking mustard packets at behind of some like 80-year-old woman's Bills jacket. And it was the 4th preseason game, so nobody who made that team was in that game.
Wow, I didn't even know mustard packets made it out in preseason. I thought they waited till like week 3.
It was Vet Stadium back then. They didn't have the money for like the big nozzles that you could spray mustard at. And apparently he said like in 79 when I was like 3 years old, we went to a Eagles Steelers preseason game. But this was his first regular season game.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
I'm a good son.
You're not a bad guy. You're not a bad guy.
Yeah.
I just said it's amazing you made it this far without killing somebody. But
Big Wild Hank looks after me.
he will, and he will soon be the new co-host. But anyway, Mike, it's time to segue to our guest here, and we got a good one. We didn't have one last week. We kind of just did a little silly Thanksgiving game, if you will, and
Unlike the maturity of this episode.
yeah, we just like to think of our episodes. We just keep rising in intelligence and maturity and ability to story tell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like we're starting to hit our stride almost 500 episodes in,
Yeah, it takes 500 to get your stride, and then we're really professional.
Whatever. We're back on the guest train here, and this one's a good one too. Mike, who we got?
Tonight we are talking with the founder and current CEO of Moviepass, Stacy Spikes. You may have seen him featured in the recent documentary Moviepass, MovieCrash, which tells the story of the rise, fall, and return of Moviepass. So we're going to check in on him about the whole documentary, all his business knowledge, and the fact that he may be a part of a cover band.
Stacy Spikes of Moviepass on the line.
Hey guys,
Stacy,
Stacy, what's going on, man?
how's it going?
I like how you're already putting up your product in the back of, smart, man.
I've done this once or twice.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. After you do this interview, Moviepass is going to basically take over.
Yeah.
How are you guys tonight?
We're doing awesome. We're doing awesome. So, Stacy, I want to thank you for coming on the show. Now, as you could probably figure out, I've watched the Moviepass, MovieCrash. Scott has watched it. You probably get asked about the same thing all over and over again. So let's just get it out of the way. Can you do your best rendition of Limelight from your Rush cover band for us right now, please? Like right now.
That's all I got from the film. Anyway.
Yeah. Was there other stuff involved?
You guys just cut straight to the chase, don't you?
We don't mess around here on Verbal Shenanigans. And
oh my God.
We do the hard hitting questions.
Yeah. Well, I don't want you to end up having to edit the show where, you know, you got to pay royalties, or they say, is there any, you know, that really sounds like Geddy Lee. So that might be some copyrighted material used in that.
Wow.
Did I get out of that? Did I
guess so.
You got out.
Yeah. So, you know, we've had some other entrepreneurs on the show before, and I'm kind of curious. Most of them kind of grow up one of two ways, or either like the kid who had the lemonade stand that always knew I'm going to have my own business. Or there's some story like I did my first day at Burger King and I said to myself, I don't want a boss ever again. What was like your journey to say, I'm going to be my own boss going forward?
You know what it was? I think I was in high school, or I was just out, and Richard Branson had a book that he released called Virgin King. No. The first one was called Losing My Virginity. And I read that book, and that was it. I didn't know what it was, but I was like, okay, you never knew this guy's behind Madonna, this guy's behind, you know, the Culture Club, and boy, like rule the music industry. And yet he was his own person. He was always starting stuff, and his life just seemed so much fun. Like all he did was played and got paid. And all I thought was, I never knew that was a thing. I thought you're a school teacher, you work for sanitation, you're a plumber. You know, I'm from Texas, and it's like you drive a pickup truck, you work hard. And so that book changed my life. And then I started reading all these entrepreneurial books, and it just sent me in a different direction than anybody had really talked about in my life. But that book was a definitive change for me.
Now, I'm curious. I read that your father was a principal, and your mom worked for a public access TV show. Like, were they supportive of this? Like, I'm going to go my own route and kind of figure it out? Because I feel like the principal part of it's probably, I could see it being like, oh, I don't know. And then like you have the creative side and the public access, TV thing. I'm just curious, were they supportive of you or a little leery of what was going on?
I'm going to tell you what I think happened. So first I went for the soft target, which was my mother. And she said, did you run this brilliant idea? So just to set up for your audience, my brilliant idea after graduating from high school and being such a great singer in my Rush cover band, I was going to go to Los Angeles, strike it rich, and retire by 30. So
good plan.
I wish I thought of that. Dang it.
So I tell my mom I'm going to take a year off. I heard about these gap years and stuff. So I said, I'm going to take a year off. Because a year, I'm going to get so established, I won't need to come back. And so then she said, did you talk to your father about this? And I remember getting my speech down, and I go into the kitchen, and he's making some bacon and eggs. And I said, Dad, I've made a decision, and I'm going to move to Los Angeles and go chase my dreams and my career. And he says, how much money do you have? And I said, I've saved up $300.
Yes.
And I really think they thought he's not going to make it past Albuquerque. So when you figure leaving from Texas, you got, couple of days, 2 or 3 days of hotel. I figured they were like, he's going to turn around, run out of money. We're not going to give him any money, and he'll be back. So they said, okay, like go get it out of your system. But I made it, and I never came back.
What was the first landing spot for you when you got there?
My uncles. So I think the other reason my mother said go ahead was she had two brothers living in California. And I think it was like, okay, they'll keep an eye out for him. And this is a very embarrassing story. It's in the book, but it wasn't in the movie. But I get to Orange County, and my Uncle Joe and his family were there. And because I drove a pickup truck, I had my clothes in the back, and to keep my clothes nice and dry, I put them in black trash bags and tied them up. So when it rained while I was driving. So I get there, and there's a note, come on in, sleep on the couch. We're all asleep. We'll see you in the morning. So my bags don't get stolen. I brought them into the garage. And I'm asleep on the couch, and everybody's kind of waking up, and I hear my aunt say to my uncle, honey, did you put the trash out? And he says, yeah. But there were two bags there that were different. Did you put them on? No. I just wanted to make sure you put the trash out. And I thought to myself, and I was in my boxers, I was like, oh no, those are my bags. And I ran outside to see the trash truck going down the street with all my belongings. And that was my first day in California.
Let me in the trash truck, and all my nice clothes are in there.
Every Thanksgiving, they love telling that joke. They love telling that story.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't put your clothes in trash bags.
So obviously you moved up, and all you got through, you were part with Boys to Men, with the product management. You went through all the steps and all to Miramax. Did you have like an actual, like, this is my structure, this is how I'm going to get to each step? Or did something just naturally click where right place, right time, or maybe a new suggestion that nobody thought of got you to the next spot in these places?
I still do this, but I'm a voracious reader of biographies. I still do it. And Michael, that's such a great question, because people think, did you have a plan? You know what it was? I would be in the middle of something, and I would remember what someone else did from a book that I had read. And I read David get to a really big, when I started at Motown and I was an intern, The Rise and Rise of David Geffen was a book that I had read, and it talks about David Geffen starting in the mailroom and how he made sure he was the first one there. He made sure he delivered the newspapers to all of the big mucky mucks. If they needed their bags carried to the car, and you know what? I did everything that David Geffen talked about in that book. And that's how I kept getting promoted. Your first one there, last one to leave. It was really funny because after hours is when all the artists came to the label. After 6 o'clock, everybody left. Well, a lot of people are trying to get out of there by 6, but they don't realize that's when all of the acts and all of the artists, and you get to hang out with them, and they got comfortable with you and trusted you. And then they were like, well, we want Stacy on this project. And by the time I was 21, I was representing Boyz II Men, Eddie Murphy, Queen Latifah, and Spike Lee by the time I was 21 years old. And it wasn't a big secret. You just stay there late and hang out, and then they trust you.
Now, did you see your path going forward? Like, did you think you were going to be in the music industry long term? Like, was that your goal? 'Cause you're coming from music in your background, but also now you've landed with some of the greats right there. And also, how did you start to venture slightly outside of the music industry?
I think I always wanted to be more in film. I always saw music from the soundtrack. To me, bands like and I'm gonna date myself here, but I grew up in a time when metal was big, and whether you were listening to Metallica or listening to Rush or then listening to Tool, it was kind of like I grew up with stadium rock, and they so much were soundtracks. If you saw God, what was the big soundtrack that Queen did for I can see the not Buckaroo Banzai, Flash Gordon.
Oh, Flash Gordon.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
And so when the Queen soundtrack to Flash Gordon or Nine Inch Nails doing Tron, like I grew up with kind of music to me was more a cinematic experience than it was pop songs. And so when you listen to Rush 2112, it's a movie. When you listen to Dark Side of the Moon, it's to Wizard of Oz, it's a score. So I always saw it that way. And Blade Runner was the movie that changed my life. And I was like, whatever this is, I want to do that. And that's never that one. I saw Star Wars before, but something about Blade Runner, I said, I want to be in this space. And I've never had that change ever. Whatever part of it I could be in. And I always say I have the best job in the world. I get paid to go watch movies every day. It's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're in the movie business with Miramax. You start the Urban Film Festival, which kind of leads to Moviepass. I'm kind of curious. It's kind of a juxtaposition because when you're working for the movie companies, they want every dime humanly possible. And you were thinking about a product where let's give a discount to everybody. What kind of talk through, like, when you're thinking, are you almost like, man, I want to keep this quiet from the other people? Or were you like probably thinking, oh, we should come up with something, get people to get more people in the seats or all that? Were you open the first time you thought of this idea?
Yeah. So you go back to the early 2000s, mid 2000s, so 2010, 26 to 2010, and they're all babies, but you have Netflix, you have Spotify, you have Pandora, you have everybody's doing from Birchbox to everything is subscription. The concept is Madison Avenue or Wall Street really preferred to have a business that has reoccurring subscription rather than you need to acquire the customer every single time. So we already knew that the movie industry has to every time reacquire the customer. So it's more efficient to get them as subscribers. We've run the math that if you can get 20% of frequent moviegoers to become subscribers, which is about 15 to 20 million people, you can double the size of Hollywood. You can literally double its size. The other factor is that, think of this from an airline perspective, that we've gotten used to the fact that only 30% of occupancy for seats are sold. So if you imagine you have subscription companies coming here,
right,
and then you have what we call aggregators. So you're in the travel and hotel. So you have Expedia, Travelocity, Orbitz. So what those guys are doing is filling up occupancy. So, hey, hotel, you don't have these rooms filled. Let me fill them. And over here is subscription. Hey, user, pay me monthly. And with that guaranteed income, I can go do deals in the marketplace because I know how much money I'm going to have every month. So if you just take the logic of those two things, Hollywood had not had a new subscription model since Nickelodeon's, where you put a nickel in a machine and watch a horse run. The business model had not changed. It was pay-per-view. So video has three models. It has pay-per-view, it has subscription, and it has ad-supported. And I've always said, if you want cinema to be as powerful, you need to give it those same three business models. So we introduced subscription, And we're now still working on bringing ad supported, that I'll be able to watch a half hour pre-show of branded content and unlock a movie ticket to anything I want. So when you think of James Bond or some of these things, the commercials are as exciting as the movies. So you'll see Heineken, Hugo Boss suits, Aston Martin, Martini, Omega Watch. These are all brands that every one of those movies has all this product placement in it. Well, what if the brands said, hey, let me watch that on my own time, and I fully watch that pre-show for a half hour, an hour, and then unlock a ticket? Well, those brands would kill for that opportunity. So there's even an ad-supported model out there, and those are the things we've been trying to bring, and that's where the ideas came from. Long answer, Michael, to your short question.
It's really interesting. So I always like to ask, let's get into the film a little bit. We've had a lot of people from different documentaries, and my first thing I always like to ask people is, are they happy with, not even so much as how they are seeing the movie, but are they happy with how the story was told in their eyes? So in your eyes, with the Moviepass documentary, are you happy? Do you think the story was told accurately enough to kind of give viewers the true story of what happened with you, which we'll get into in a second here?
Yeah, it's since you guys have seen it, they had, first, the short answer is yes, but let me tell you a little funny story. Mm-hmm. So they kept saying, we're still working on it, but they already had a premiere date. They were going to premiere it at South by Southwest. In South by Southwest is a few months after Sundance, and I am at Sundance, and a lady walks up to me in the party and says, "Oh my God, I love your documentary." I'm like, "How did you see it?" And I haven't even been able to see it. Mm-hmm. So I guess maybe she was part of programming, and they were seeing if Sundance was going to air it. And then so I call them up and I go, "Guys, there's people literally walking up to me at parties saying they've seen this doc, and I can't even see it." They're like, "Be patient. We're gonna let you see it." It's a week before South by Southwest, and they insist that the director show it to me. And if you remember, the beginning of the doc starts with Mitch as the CEO. They like open with Mitch.
Yeah, I was gonna say you weren't in it for like 15, 20 minutes. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, wait a second. And the director goes, "Hang on. This is why we wanted me to be here." So it's like 15 minutes of setup. And what it was an act of genius, but what they did was they said, we want to bring people in the story that they think they know. Right. And get them far enough down the line. And there's this part, without giving too much away, where Omar says, "Well, those guys weren't the ones who found it. It was really Hamay and Stacy." And then it's like, whoa, rewind. And right. And I thought once we got to that point, I was like, okay, that was a master stroke, but I probably would not have finished it, would have been calling HBO executives like, "What the hell is this?" Yeah. But yeah, I thought they did a great job of starting from that point versus going linear from start to finish. And I would not have come up with that. So Muta Ali did an incredible job.
It would have been great that it was like an M. Night Shyamalan thing where like they reveal you were the founder in the end, and what? What?
Well, they kind of do it a little bit. Halfway through, you think, Mitch and Ted are geniuses, and yeah, so
look, I don't want to give too much away from everything in there, but I do want to dive into it a little bit. I mean, in looking back, obviously, with huge success that you've had, and obviously we'll talk about having a Moviepass and it comes back, what do you think were the smart things you did by bringing those two gentlemen in where you can sit back and go, as a person who's building a business, all that's logical and makes sense, and where do you sit back and go, I should have saw the red flag immediately?
So similar question I've gotten before is, could you have spotted it again if you came down the same path. And I think, when you're a founder and you're selling, there's three types of sales. There's full cash, like here's money. You're printing so much paper. Here's money. Go have a good life. There's all cash. There's all stock. We're not giving you any money, but we're a publicly traded company. We're Amazon or Apple. We're going to pay you in stock. And then but you have to sit on that stock for a year or whatever it is. And then the third one is a mixture. They give you part cash, part stock. We got the part cash, part stock. And when you're selling the company and you're selling a majority interest and control, once you guys do the deal, and what was beautiful was, for me, it was my ownership went from zero because no one was buying the company and we were constantly running uphill to overnight I had my stock was valued at north of $80 million. So if we just kept going and didn't screw everything up, I would have been like, cool, great deal. I walked away. I had an exit. I'm going to build another company. And like Elon Musk, I did PayPal and I'm going to go make something else. And that's a great payday, right? For 6 years worth of work, $80 million, I'll take it. So the challenge was, once they had majority control, and even with the bump in valuation, the board structure changed. So they had 51% ownership. And the only problem was the price point at $10 was not sustainable. And I kept saying, guys, $30 is sustainable, 25 is sustainable, 10's not sustainable. And they kept saying, we know what we're doing. And they figured they could, like Icarus, they could just outrun the sun, and it caught them. And we're only talking about one thing different, which is if the price was adjusted, there wouldn't have been a doc and we wouldn't be talking about this, and I would be on my own little island. So
out of curiosity, did they say anything like they were banking on kind of like what we all do now with like people got Hulu and never turn it on? Is that what they're banking on? Or did they just literally like, shush, you wouldn't understand?
No. So with subscriptions, and we know this from Theranos or all the plays back then from WeWork, it's like go, 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 grow, get big, and we'll figure it out later. And they were getting big and they would figure it out later. But what happened was they were hemorrhaging so much money and the behavior was so bad and ludicrous that it became a Led Zeppelin and it came back down to earth. So the first quarter, they lost, I think, $176 million. And you just can't sustain. They kept saying, well, we'll make it up on advertising. If you're getting $10 a month from each person and you're losing $30 a month, what kind of data do you have on people that you're making $30 on every that's blackmail level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there is no data that's that rich. And so they just didn't realize it. And they just kept thinking, we've got this rocket ship. And if they would have raised the price if you look at AMC and Regal today, their price is around $25. All you're talking about, and even if people churned out, you'd be alive and you'd be successful. The stock was valued at almost triple what AMC was trading at. So you could have bought AMC. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the part that you think just because people wear suits and ties that they're smart, doesn't make it so.
So I thought the film was fantastic. My wife sat down. She's like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm interviewing this guy. I want to watch the film." She sat down and watched it, loved it. I'm curious. I was thinking during that, as you and your partner are sitting back and watching the collapse of this company. What was the biggest moment where you were like, "Oh my God!" Like there is no way this is going to work for the company, or this is the most outlandish spending. I mean, the film dives into the parties and going to was it Bonnaroo or Coachella,
Coachella.
and things like that. Was it the gaudy film? Like, what was the moment where you just like threw it up and said, "Oh my God, like this is going down, and we have no chance." Like, where was that moment? Because there was a lot in the film. There's even more for you.
Once we got fired, there was like, we were the only voice in the boardroom screaming, "Stop."
Mm.
Once they fired us, which they had the right to do, and they just said we were negative Nellies, we were founders that couldn't deal with the fact that we had been replaced. They thought, we're geniuses. We're brilliant. We're growing faster than any company in the history of entertainment. And it was just classic hubris.
Yeah.
And so for us, once we were fired, we were like, okay, this ends badly. Is it a crash landing? Is it a blow up in the atmosphere? Is it a put the plane down softly? And I think along the way, we kept hoping, okay, they'll come to their senses. The board will come to its senses and pull them in. They're gonna bring in a new CEO. There'll be things to do before it gets to that point, and it never happened. Thelma and Louise just drove it right off the cliff.
Me and my wife had a similar question. When you did these two guys in your mind think they were doing something genius, or did they know they were just doing something that was failing and they were just milking it as far as they can go? Like, did they actually believe themselves that they were turning this around?
I mean, out of the gate, it was taking off, and you're believing your own hype.
Yep.
But they became so confident that they couldn't fail, that when Wall Street started to dry up. So here's the big thing. They talk about it a little bit, but the very first thing, so they took about $150 million from a company called Hudson Bay. I was still there when it happened, but that money, Hudson Bay then shorted the stock. So Hudson Bay made all of its money back by shorting the stock. So all of a sudden there's this big sell-off that starts to happen. So the volume's going in the wrong direction. And that signaled to the retail investors that something's wrong. And then you have the quarterly report come out that says they lost $150 million. And then at that point, and this is all in a few weeks, now they're trying to figure out how to resurrect it or turn it around or get the ship down for a soft landing. And then to exacerbate it, they did three things. One, they turned off, they took the cancellation buttons out of the app. Two, they turned off customer service. And then three, they purged people. They kicked off the biggest users, but kept charging. So what they did is at 2:00 every day, if you were a super user, your app suddenly stopped working. And there's a guy in the doc who says it's 11 a.m. and it says I have no more show times. Well, what they had done was they told the developers to write code, and anybody who goes over this, keep the app like it's working, but turn them off and say you have no more show times. And so that got them in federal trouble because that's fraud. That's
sure.
And what made it also a federal crime is you were transporting. You hit into the RICO laws because you were transporting credit cards across state line for illegal financial action. So you're moving money across state lines. So they were screwed.
Well, I'm kind of curious about, so all this happens, MoviePass goes away, it gets tied up. You decide to buy back MoviePass. I'm kind of curious obviously you had an innovative idea and you want to push forward with it. Was there any consideration to make it a different name, thinking, okay, people are going to remember the bad stuff at the end, or did you always feel like the name MoviePass overpowered anything?
That is a very good question. So we actually didn't want to trust our opinion. I had developed some new names for it. And one of the people that were advising us when I was looking at possibly buying it back said, let's run a poll and find out how many people are aware of it, and is it a negative connotation. So we're in the middle of COVID. Now remember, everyone's saying cinema's dead. No one's ever going to go to the movies again. We're all going to Zoom. We're going to work out on treadmills at home. Never going to go to the movies. Call it a day. Hollywood's done. So I went and they ran these polls and found out 100 million people were familiar with the MoviePass brand. That was number one. Second was kids started posting TikTok videos. And I'm not sure how old you guys are, but during the MTV days, they used to have those MTV spots. If a cable provider wasn't running MTV in your area, they had Sting singing, I want my MTV. And they had Billy Idol going, I want my MTV. And all of those spots were to get the cable provider, because they might be in a Bible Belt and we're like, I'm not putting that rock and roll on my station. And so these were these spots, and they had an 800 number, call your cable provider. Well, kids started posting, I want my MoviePass back. I want to get out of my house and I want to go to the movies. And so I had an investor group for this new company, and I gathered a bunch of those, and I said, first, 100 million people know about the brand. Second, they wanted to come back because they enjoyed the experience so much. And third, they felt like we were trying to change the industry, but it imploded, and they thought it wasn't fraud, like all of that hadn't come out, just they mismanaged the opportunity. So that's when we said, let's bring it back with the same name and try there, because why give up that kind of brand equity? And kids are posting videos like, I want my MoviePass.
That's awesome. It's pretty cool. Did you, when you were buying the company, was there also part of you like, there has to be like a little bit, I don't know if ego is the right word, but like, that I'm getting a second chance at this, and like, it's not often you get a second chance to take something back. And I know you mentioned in the movie, like you talked about, Steve Jobs coming back, and Bill Gates and whoever else, and Dell and whatnot.
Yeah, Michael Dell. Yeah.
Yeah. There has to be a part of you that's like, screw this, I got screwed over. Like, I'm giving this a shot again. There has to be some competition in you too, like, or belief in yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like you summit Everest and then you freaking die on top of the mountain. Walking back down is like, climbing's one thing, walking back down. And so the fact that in 2019, the thing was worth $500 million, I put in a bid for $140,000 and got it back.
Wow. Okay.
That math alone, raise some money and go fall into the end zone. And then the other thing was, when I read Steve Jobs's book, I read up on Michael Dell going back and taking his company back after being ousted. I read about the Skype, the guys who founded Skype. They went and bought it back from Microsoft because Microsoft mothballed it. And there's all of these stories of original founders and their original vision. Once it got into corporate hands, that the artistry left. And I remember when Jobs left Apple, and you suddenly had a Pepsi CEO, and he did what he did, which he thought, it's not about the computers, it's about halftime shows, and it's about, soft drink type decisions. And he was wrong. And they introduced 21 different products. And the first thing Steve Jobs did was stripped it down to 3 product lines.
Yep.
And he was a minimalist. And I was very similar. I was like, why are you doing Coachella? Why are you starting MoviePass Films? Why are you doing MoviePass Airlines with John Travolta? Why are you doing $1 million parties at Sundance? Give that to the customers. Give that to the theaters that's struggling. So I just couldn't understand the logic. Even if you have that kind of money, put it where it matters. Put it in the experience. And that's where Jobs was like, put it in the computer. And I think founders think like that because they're coming from the soul that's not just from the pocketbook.
So tell us about the MoviePass 2.0. What is different? What are, people that are hearing this? Ironically, I watched the film and wasn't that familiar with MoviePass, and I was like, where the hell was I during those years? Because I'm like, oh my God, I remember hearing about it, but way bigger than I thought it was. So tell us about MoviePass 2.0 and what's different and why it's more sustainable and why it makes sense for customers to get on board. Yeah.
So, basically one of the changes we knew back in 2016 was, and I'm going to be a little bit analytical here, but what you're playing with is an economy. So you have when the money comes in from subscribers, you have to manage that money based on the cost of goods going out. So you need enough coming in and you need less than what you brought in that goes back out the door. So you have some breakage with people who maybe don't use it as much as they think, like gym memberships. But then you also need to bring your cost of goods down. So you negotiate prices. And then somehow you need to help manage super users who can just bankrupt the whole system. Because it was only 5% of people in the previous MoviePass. You could go every day and they were the ones killing the system. Other people weren't abusing it, but there's some people that were doing 30 movies a month. And, that's $300 out the door per person.
Yep.
So what we did was we introduced a credit system. So you give money, we give credits. So now a movie, if you go see Gladiator on opening weekend, we don't really get discounts on those tickets. So we're not going to really discount it in the app. But now with the credit system in week 2, 3, and 4, and 5, or Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, now I can reduce those credits and say, sure, go, because the theaters want to fill those seats versus it's Friday night on opening weekend. In the old version, you couldn't signal. There was no way of signaling that. So now with the credit system, and if you open the app, there's these little bubbles and they have numbers. You get, let's say, 200 credits in your account, and you think to yourself, well, wow, that thing's 50 credits. But if I wait 2 days, it's Saturday night. On Monday, it might be 10 or 15 credits. On Tuesday, it's definitely going to be the lowest because that's where we drop it the most. Because I'm in the New York market, and so when you ride New Jersey or Long Island Railroad, you have peak and off-peak times.
Sure.
It's cheaper to, travel at off-peak times. Same idea. So that's what allows us to govern the system. And you pass on that value to people who are willing to go at off-peak times and willing to wait a few days and let the big crowds go by. And now it works for everyone. In our first year back, we already were flying profitably at around 23, 24%. So that's really the difference. And that's something we already knew the answer to, but they wouldn't listen to us. And I mean, ClassPass has that. When you think of airline miles and loyalty points, they're the points if you try and fly on Thanksgiving, and the points if you try and fly in February it's going to be much cheaper. So all businesses do that. And so we just wanted to create that alignment, and that's how it works. We said the average person saves around 30% on going to the movies by using MoviePass.
Stacy, I really appreciate all the time you gave us. It's an amazing story. I really love the whole how you grew, made something that was like universal, amazing, and even as it came through, you brought it back up. It's an incredible story. As you talk to us about how many books you've read, I know you have a book out there. Can you tell the audience about your book?
Yeah, so I was a very disgruntled founder sitting at home. And my book started as a resentment.
It's weird. I saw a movie about this.
Yeah.
It was like,
first couple of words, you son of next page.
They're not going to get away with that. My mindset was, even if I have to post it online for free, I'm going to write this down. And originally it was let me, for tech founders, because there were technology things about stock and timing, investing, and when you can exit. There were these things that if I knew in the boardroom, I probably would have done differently. And so I wanted to leave breadcrumbs behind and say, here's this. And at the time, there were two things I was thinking of. There was Kobe, whose nickname was Black Mamba for the snake. And then Black Panther, the movie, had come out, and both of these gentlemen had passed. And I remember we were thinking about the title, and I don't ever remember seeing a founder of color, a technical founder of color. I can't think of a single.
Yep.
There's Mark Cuban. There is no there's Barry Gordy. Sure, there's Quincy Jones. Sure, there's all the athletes. There's Oprah. But show me one book by a technical founder. So me and the publisher said, okay, let's call it Black Founder. And then the subtitle is The Hidden Power of Being an Outsider. And that means for anybody, whether you're too young, you don't have the money, you're whatever form of an outsider you may be, it tells how you actually have a lot more advantages, because the ivory towers they don't have the agility that you have. You can do dev cycles on a problem that they can't. They can't spin the cycles. And if you have immense passion for something, you never see extreme innovation come from inside of corporations. It comes from outside. Mm-hmm. So it talks about giving you that point of view so that you can actually be quite powerful. And so it's Black Founder, The Hidden Power of Being an Outsider. And I got to tell you, it's weird. So if you've ever traveled in the airports, there's a dominant bookstore called Hudson Books,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And this past February, we got a note. Hudson was going to feature the book in every single train, airport, everywhere. Nice. And all over the country, people are like, your book, your book, your book. And so that was very bizarre, going awesome. From no one knows you, you're an invisible person. And I mean, I've been asked to speak and do corporate events and speaking for Amazon, and people are asking the questions like you've asked. How did you overcome that? How did you get through it? So people can understand those challenges make you who you are. They define you. Did you get up off the canvas, or did you crawl into the nearest bar and start saying, "Pour me a drink," right? And that's what people want to know. How do you get up off the floor?
I mean, I guess the lesson here is you don't put your clothes in trash bags, right? You keep.
Yeah. That's words to live by.
And we're back to the beginning.
That should be the first page. If I teach you anything in this book, do not use garbage bags as luggage.
Proper luggage.
Hey, I think there's a metaphor in there. If you don't put your clothes in trash bags, right? Like don't invest with bad people. I like it.
I thought it was so smart. I was like, I'm weatherproofing it. If there's rain, look, I'm a genius.
I think it's a metaphor for your story, man.
Maybe that's your business after Moviepass. When you make that 80 million back and you sell off, and you just make garbage bag luggage for everybody.
That's the next book.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was just gonna say. The title of your next book, man. But I mean, there's so much to talk to you about. But we're gonna let you go. I mean, you do a lot of work with people of color and women in the business, and there's so much we can get into, and maybe we'll try to get you back on and to talk about the next thing you got going on. But I gotta say, like we were watching the movie the other night, and I knew you had gotten MoviePass back, but my wife did not, and there was like a legit like, oh shit, like yeah, like at the end, like the hero of the story. So thank you, man, for giving us your time. You're very inspirational. You're very smart, a lot smarter than me and Mike here.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, we've been doing the podcast for 10 years. It's never been worth that amount at all.
We're looking for someone to buy it off us,
Yeah. I'll call you.
Yeah. Stacy, thank you so much for your time, man. Good luck with whatever you got going on. We'd love to have you back on in the future.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate it.
Stacy Spikes, Mike. Really, really fascinating guy. And the movie really was great. Like, it really was entertaining. It reminded me of if you liked the Fire Festival documentary or the Woodstock 98 documentary, like something great that just kind of like falls apart, and why, and like the absurdity that goes with it and whatnot. So I would highly recommend it.
Ditto right here.
Now, did you know, like, I felt like I was like, oh, when was this? Maybe like 15, 20 years ago. I'm like, wait a minute, this is like 7 years ago. How did I not know this much about MoviePass? I remember like seeing the name, but I definitely did not know as much as like I think I should have. Or
I did know of the product. I knew a lot of people who got it. I remember talking to my dad about it and explaining to him, and the thing he didn't like was they would set out that they had a whole pattern where they sent out a debit card to everybody. It was a MasterCard MoviePass debit card, and it was able to recognize where you were, basically saying, okay, I'm at this AMC. I want to see, we'll say Gladiator. I went through MoviePass, say, give me a ticket for Gladiator, and it would able to recognize you're at the theater, so I could put funds in the card. So when you give it to the cashier, it would let you into the movie and all. So it was very fascinating about that. So I do remember it from its prime.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, what a really, really interesting guy Stacy is. So Mike, you're talking about before this mystery stew or vomit that comes into your yard. We got a little bit of mysteriousness going up here in New Jersey. Now, I know you've been gone for a little while, but some weird things going on here in Jersey. There are, I don't know if you've read or saw videos people have been posting in my like local neighborhood Facebook group. So up here in North Jersey, the last couple of weeks there's just been tons of drones, like everywhere in the sky.
Really?
Like people are posting videos of like a bunch of them just flying around, a bunch of them fly in like a formation almost, like where they see lights and like drones flying in sequence. If you type in right now into your Google search over there, New Jersey, North Jersey drones, there are lots of videos going on. And I was kind of like I wasn't worried about it, but all of a sudden it seems to be picking up steam here. So I guess I have my theories on what this actually could be, but what do you think all these drones are? Are we talking aliens? Are we talking foreign attacks? Are we talking people? Are we talking the 1984 them spying on us? We're finally seeing it right in our face. What do you think is going on here?
I'm going with the aliens theory, and I don't think they're drones. I think that's their actual spaceships. We have very tiny aliens who have come down to the planet to observe us, but they're like super, like they're the size of your thumb. So they're highly sophisticated plane craft. Just looks like a drone, but it's like it took their people millions of years to come up with this technology to show up, and it just happens to look like something you got in the old school Radio Shack.
That'd be so disappointing. All these years, all these movies of alien invasions, and they're just like little like fly size. You just swat them away and kill them, and that's like the end of the invasion.
Yeah, like they come out all tough, like take me to your leader, and you just like and you slap them, and you killed off like 30 of them.
Yeah, you just hit him with a shoe like you would some other weird insect in your like. I feel like it'd be such a letdown if there's going to be an invasion. I want the big head, like 3-foot aliens that have lasers and stuff like that, and kind of end our world.
You want Danny DeVito with a big head to be your aliens that come down?
I guess so. I mean, I want the payoff to be at least worth it if they're going to take over the planet or.
Well,
or
I mean, with my scenario, we win. Like all these movies, we get our butt kicked at least for like 3/4 of the movie. Like there's no alien movie where we're like, oh, the aliens are coming and attacking us, and we're like the winning because we're the home team.
Yeah. But yeah, it's really weird because people are even in just my neighborhood page posting like it looks crazy. There's like a bunch of lights in the sky, like moving around. Like some of them are there's like they look like they're in a straight line, like almost like those drones you see in like they've been doing them at like shows and stuff like that where they make like shapes and figures and things like that. Like I can't. The one thing I'm thinking of, like, I live close, not that far from Picatinny Arsenal, which is like a military base or something. Maybe they're testing some kind of technology up here, and it just happens to be very clear outside right now with no clouds. The other thing I said to my wife,
that would be the dumbest thing our military ever did. We're going to test out this super secret weaponry right here. Corporal Evans, did you make sure it was cloudy last night? Dang it!
Maybe my other super tinfoil hat theory is that maybe it's some kind of guerrilla marketing for like a movie or something that's coming out where, like, remember years ago we saw like the clowns, people were like dressing up as clowns and like standing on street corners, and it ended up, I think it had something to do with it when it was being released. And then like that movie Smile was coming out, and they put people in like really obvious spots, like baseball, looking
Smile.
creepy. What if this is just some like, I don't know, some apocalyptic movie where it's about drones taking over the world and like, they oversee everything, and this is like the way of people talking about drones and things like that.
What if it's like Pixar's offshoot of like Cars, drones?
But they're just flying it in the sky, like
like, well, Disney, they're spending all that money on the new parks and stuff like that, so they can't go full on stuff. So they're like, all right, we got to come up with this campaign. What's a place nobody cares about? And everybody answered New Jersey. No. So they're like, all right, let's buy 1,000 drones and fly it over New Jersey and see if we can get people ready for Pixar's drones.
I said, I made a joke. I said, I'm going to tell my son that Santa's elves watching. Like, that's how they keep tabs of kids now. Just drones in the sky looking over you.
But can you imagine, like, your kid wakes up, like, has to go to the bathroom at 2 a.m. He wakes up and he sees a drone outside staring at him at 2 a.m. Oh my God! Yeah, Santa's a creep!
I mean, I'll scar him for the rest of his life, but he might behave really well for the next 3 weeks. So it might be
I just
worth
thought
it.
you naturally scarred him, regardless of your evil ideas.
I'm sure there's a million things I do that. I mean, if he ever listens to this show, like from beginning to end, like after I'm dead,
oh my
there's gonna
God!
be some interesting things. He's gonna think like, "Wow, that guy's cornball. That guy's weird." There's gonna be a lot of things that I'm gonna reveal that he's not gonna like.
Like I'll have to appear in like courts to like try to say I have no influence in how his child came about and all. He left out the episodes for him to watch. It's not my fault and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I hate that every time we have a scenario, you always think that I'm going to be dead before you.
Well, I mean, look at me, tip top shape, and I'm the bastion of superior health. I mean, unlike you,
that's a new title, Bastion of Superior Health.
Yeah, you didn't know I got that?
I mean, it rolls right off the tongue so nicely.
When you walk in the streets and you get the accolades thrown at you, you get new ones thrown at you once in a while, and Bastion of good health came.
You don't even remember what you just said 30 seconds.
Well, again, like one person yells in, and then somebody misheard the first one, so they yell something similar to it, but not exactly. We just pick the right one and we go with it,
Yeah. All seriousness, what do you think these drones could possibly be?
No seriousness, I would probably say it's likely something with as you point out, like military or like testing something out. If they're like there's certain times there's certain times they're in formation. That would be like the only thing, unless there's the only other thing in fact is there's like a drone, like something coming to like a duplex or something like that, some kind of like drone fest where like all the
drone fest. This show sucks. I can't see anything.
Yeah, we should have been inside while all the drones are outside. We really didn't think about Drone Fest too well. We'll make it better in 2025, Drone Fest.
But it's so funny because I'm reading like articles. You can tell like something's going on because articles are like, well, it's probably planes. We're just looking into it. Like people are not that stupid. Like people have seen planes their entire life. They don't hover around and go and like look where you can see the drone.
Well, I mean, we convince people that birds aren't real, so why can't we convince people drones are planes?
That's what I'm saying. Like all this stuff, people are tired of being lied to, but yet you still see news stories like, well, it's probably just a plane, and it's the way how clear the sky is. I'm like, guys, come on. People are posting with their phones, drones flying around their neighborhood. It's weird.
Yeah, if you clearly look on the side, that drone says Delta on it, so it's clearly a plane.
It's a Spirit Airlines drone.
They're going out of business, so they're like, oh, let's try smaller planes.
Swear to God, on my life, during the podcast today, I had two friends that I worked with going to Nashville on Spirit Airlines. And, we have some dark humor. So every time one of us flies, we're like, well, this is the last flight for you, buddy. Like, this is it. You're going down. So, we're all busting each other's balls on the thread here. All of a sudden I get a text today at 8:40. It says, bro, best flight of my life, touchdown, and take off again. And the guy, I think he meant worst flight of my life. Take off, and the guy behind me goes, our landing gear is not working. He says, and the other guy says, definitely the craziest thing I ever experienced. I thought we were goners. He says, swear to God, literally back wheels almost touched, then he floored it and went straight back up. And he's like, I thought I was going to shit, but I had 2 Jim Beams and 2 beers and was listening to music. It was like, screw it. I don't have much to leave behind anyway. But yeah.
Did you text back, called it, and had a high five emoji?
Winner. Yeah.
I told you. No. Nostradamus.
But yeah, crazy. So I don't know. We'll see. Like maybe if this is some kind of takeover from like Russia drones or Chinese drones. We're just planning like a mass extinction of our people.
Why is it always got to be the big countries? Why couldn't like Tunisia come up with this idea, Scott? Huh? You're not thinking of why can't like Trinidad and Tobago try to take over the United States, huh?
I don't know, because I remember when the United States played them and they had to make the World Cup, and they played them on a soccer field that looked like a high school soccer field, and they lost. I can't imagine them orchestrating this drone attack in New Jersey.
Well, you just clearly said it. They beat us in soccer, and they went home to the people, and they say, we can take over the country. If we can dominate this 300 million person population who apparently have the world's greatest athletes in a game where how big is Trinidad and Tobago? Maybe like Maine? I mean,
Probably, yeah.
I would be telling you, like, listen, let's start building some drones right now. We'll send them over to New Jersey. Let's see if we can take over New Jersey, and we'll go from there. Trinidad, Tobago, and New Jersey will call us.
We used to have a sponsor on the show, Drone Clone Experts. Maybe this is his way of advertising instead of like doing our podcast.
That SOP, he could have had like a little flyer at the end that says Verbal Shenanigans Podcast flying around with these drones, but no.
Yeah, now he's just flying all over New Jersey, getting much more attention. So I get it. But that's it, guys. It's time for us to wrap this up. Good guest tonight. Average banter. That's what we like to do on this show. Mike, anything to promote before we go?
I'm going to give a shout out to Randy Santel, foodchallenges.com, former guest of the show. You can see all his food challenges on YouTube, but I'm more sending a shout out to him because on his recent live stream, he did, I believe it was a 6-pound barbecue challenge. And afterwards, he proposed to his girlfriend and she said yes. So congratulations to Randy Santel. And if you're curious about a man who can eat 6 pounds of barbecue in one sitting, go to YouTube and look up Randy Santel and check out all his videos.
And check him out on our podcast. We did food competitions. Mike did a food competition on one of those. And I will
fell asleep on your floor.
We fell asleep on my floor. Yeah, we were sucking wine out of the bladder of a of a box of wine. It was a good night. And I will quickly promote two comics that are very good friends of the show and good friends of mine. KP Burke and Mike Sicoli both have comedy specials coming out on YouTube. Mike Sicoli, very funny comic, has The Prom King coming out, filmed here at the Dojo of Comedy in Morris Plains. And KP Burke, the host of American Loser podcast, also has a comedy special coming out It is coming out within the next week or so, but it is called The Last Recital. He's a great comic. It's his second special. So go check that out and support KP, The Last Recital on YouTube. So other than that, guys, I want to thank Stacy Spikes for coming on the show. Keep listening. We got a whole bunch of guests in the queue. So we're back on our guest train. Our Christmas episode will be coming on shortly. And that's it, guys. Life is funny and laugh at it. Keep the wind at your back.
All guests of the Verbal Shenanigans Podcast get the home edition of the Abominable, the board game.